Support for this podcast comes from St. Alphonsus Sports Medicine, offering services for sports injury and recovery, with physicians and athletic trainers who provide treatment for fractures, dislocations, sprains, strains, and other sports-related issues. More information on services at stalphonsus.org. Love Boise State Public Radio podcasts? They are free to enjoy, but not free to produce. If you can give, your support helps keep shows like Idaho Matters and Scandalize available to everyone. Donate now at boisestatepublicradio.org.
Good morning, happy Friday. This is The Connector, Idaho Daily News from Boise State Public Radio. I'm Troy Oppie. Here are this morning's headlines. A wildfire prompted evacuations yesterday in eastern Idaho. The State Department of Health and Welfare has issued a measles warning to anyone who traveled through the Boise airport recently. And a far-right blogger who lost the defamation lawsuit is asking the state's high court to overturn the judgment. Those stories in just a moment. We start at the State House, where Governor Brad Little issued his first vetoes of the year earlier this week. They came down Wednesday and were announced Thursday. The governor vetoing 5 separate bills. As our James Dawson reports, the proposals that got vetoed didn't get much publicity during the legislative session.
Little's first veto would have continued the legislature's push to deregulate childcare in Idaho by allowing providers to oversee more kids in some cases. The owner's own children wouldn't have counted toward required staffing ratios if they're 5 years of age or older. The governor wrote the proposal would have endangered kids during emergency situations. He also vetoed 2 budget bills over concerns about how cash would be transferred across different funds. The final 2 vetoes rejected measures to bypass the Idaho Public Utilities Commission when telecommunication companies want to disconnect service to customers, and another to prevent cryptocurrency fraud. Governor Little has yet to act on several high-profile bills involving teachers' unions, Medicaid work requirements, and partisan highway district elections. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
There are still nearly 3 dozen bills on the governor's desk waiting for his signature or veto. The deadline for his action is next Tuesday evening. The bills would become law automatically if he takes no action. The State Department of Health and Welfare is warning of a possible measles exposure at the Boise airport between 1:30 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. Sunday, March 29th. An announcement from Health and Welfare says a person with measles was traveling through the airport during that time frame, and the department says people who traveled on an airplane with the person are being directly notified. Measles is highly contagious and can remain infectious for up to 2 hours after an infected person has left an area, according to health experts. Many parts of the United States are experiencing measles outbreaks, including neighboring Utah, and outbreaks are happening in popular international tourist destinations as well. Symptoms include a rash or flu-like symptoms. Severe cases can be deadly or lead to long-term health problems. Experts say the best protection against measles is the MMR vaccine. Plans to build mixed ground-level retail and more than 300 affordable housing units in Boise's Lusk district between Boise State Campus and Ann Morrison Park hit a speed bump this week. The city's design review committee held the project for at least a month, asking developers to make changes to improve the look of the building.
I struggle to get behind this project for a variety of reasons, but mostly because I think it's just a big box and this doesn't meet the standard of excellence that our Capitol Boulevard overlay is supposed to be encouraging.
That's committee co-chair Ryan Erstad, the most vocal opponent of the design presented for approval. He also pushed for multiple driveways planned for the attached parking garage be combined into a single entry. The design committee plans to review changes to the application at its May meeting. The project is being built in partnership with the city of Boise by the same groups that built new affordable housing, the Franklin at Franklin and Orchard, and the still-in-progress El Dorado in West Boise. Boise Mayor Lauren McLean announced Thursday that Interim Chief of Staff Hannah Brass-Greer has been elevated to the role permanently. Brass-Greer joined the city in 2022, serving previously as Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and External Affairs. She replaces Courtney Washburn, who last month departed the city after 6 years to return to private advocacy work. A far-right blogger is asking the state Supreme Court to overturn a $1.1 million civil judgment against her after falsely claiming a drag performer exposed his genitals to children in 2022. Here's James Dawson with more.
A jury in 2024 found Summer Bushnell defamed Eric Posey after altering a video recording of his performance at Pride in the Park in Coeur d'Alene to suggest he flashed his genitals at kids. On Thursday, Bushnell told the Idaho Supreme Court the jury was prejudiced against her. Justice Gregory Mueller says she never backed up that claim, calling it, quote, word salad.
The allegations in this case of modifying a video and lying about its contents and publicizing it sound pretty serious. Help me understand why it's not as serious as the jury thought it was.
Because I don't feel like they had the right instructions.
Bushnell says asking jury members if Posey had proof she defamed him shouldn't have been allowed. Here's Justice Robin Brody.
I don't understand the analysis that you've provided in your briefing at all.
Brody later said it appeared Bushnell used AI to compile her written arguments, which included legal citations that didn't exist or were misquoted. Bushnell says she did her own research. Justices will issue their opinion in the case at a later date. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
Boise Schools has released more information about the man arrested on multiple charges of sexual assault of a minor who was also a bus driver for kids in the district. The charges are related to a victim investigators say was directly connected to the suspect, 32-year-old Caden Peterson, and do not involve students he transported as a driver for Durham School Services. In a news release Thursday, Boise Schools identified the more than dozen schools and teams that Peterson drove in the 10 days before his arrest, most in the attendance areas of Boise, Capitol, and Bora High Schools. Many routes also had adult monitors on board. The district says Peterson passed a criminal background check prior to his employment and had no reports on his record. Buses are also equipped with video and audio surveillance at all times. Anyone with knowledge of potentially illegal activity by Peterson on a district bus is asked to call investigators. Ada County residents needing driver's license or registration services can now walk in without an appointment to the DMV on Chinden Boulevard near Maple Grove. The Idaho Department of Transportation says that location is now fully hybrid, allowing for on-demand service. It serves around 300 people a day, according to the county. Other DMV locations in Ada County still require an advance appointment, including offices on Benjamin Lane in Boise and the offices in Meridian and Star. A wildfire yesterday afternoon in East Idaho between Rigby and Rexburg briefly forced evacuations, but no structures ended up being burned, and evacuation orders were lifted after about an hour. Officials told East Idaho News the cause was a controlled burn which got out of control. Madison County Sheriff's Office reported Marine units were ferrying firefighters by boat up the Snake River to reach the blaze, which was in difficult terrain. The blaze was dubbed the Snake Fire, about 20 acres in size, contained around 8 p.m. yesterday. Firefighters, though, are expected to remain for several days to ensure hotspots are extinguished. Around the region, dozens of new bridges and tunnels are helping wildlife like deer, elk, and pronghorn cross busy roads. As the Mount West News Bureau's Rachel Cohen reports, state lawmakers want more of them.
In Colorado, a wildlife bridge spanning 6 highway lanes is now the biggest in North America. Another project with over- and underpasses reduced wildlife vehicle collisions by 92% in its first 5 years.
The question isn't whether this works, it's how do we do more of it in our state?
That's Dylan Roberts, a Colorado state senator and co-sponsor of a bipartisan bill to raise money for crossings with an optional $5 fee on vehicle registrations. Last year, a mandatory fee failed. Lawmakers in Utah this session agreed to send $2 million a year to a wildlife crossing account. In Idaho, they signed off on a non-binding resolution supporting crossings. These bridges and tunnels can cost millions of dollars. A federal grant program has funded several in our region, but it ends this year. For the Mountain West News Bureau, I'm Rachel Cohen.
And that's your connector on this Friday. It is our spring membership drive right now. If that has you maybe tuning out the radio and tuning in this podcast for the first time, welcome. Make sure you subscribe and catch us every day wherever you get your podcasts. You can also make a contribution during our spring membership drive. We run on listener funds. That website, of course, is boisestatepublicradio.org. And thanks very, very much. Have a great weekend. We'll be back with you again on Monday.
You know, every day on Up First, NPR's Golden Globe-nominated morning news podcast, we bring you 3 essential stories at the heart of each story are questions. What really happened? What really mattered? What happens next? At NPR, we stand for your right to be curious and to follow the facts. Follow Up First wherever you get your podcasts and start your day knowing what matters and why.